Hey, in this video, I'll be ranking all 17 legendaries from Clash Royale from worst to best. This is my opinion. If you're wrong, just say in the comments what you would change, and here you go. At number 17, I have the Fisherman. The Fisherman came out very recently, and I got in the challenge after getting 15 wins, the max wins in that challenge. Using the Fisherman ladder and everything, it just doesn't feel like a legendary card. It's not so good. It's only really good against hog riders, and not too many people use them. It does very little damage. Takes a long time to wind up. It stuns enemies when it grabs them or hooks them towards it. But other than that, it's just a bad troop. At number 16, I have the Graveyard. Graveyard is a spell which goes around, you will normally put it around an enemy tower, spawning skeletons in its radius. It's not, I don't like it so much because it's easily countered with a poison or just pretty much any troop that either does splash damage or could attack pretty quickly. If you don't use anything for it, it will deal a ton of damage, but if you use anything, it's just not good. At number 15, I have the Princess. The Princess is mainly good for attacking from long range, since it has the longest range out of any card in the game. If you play the opposing lane of your opponent's attack, it will hit your opponent's troops from the opposite lane. If you play one at the bridge, it will hit your opponent's princess tower before even crossing the bridge, so the princess tower can't hit your princess. Other than that, there's nothing special about the princess. If you have it, let's say it's your first card, you're excited to use it, or your first legendary card, I wouldn't be so excited. I would not use it. It's at higher levels, you rarely see anyone use it. Like if you go into a ladder game, you'll see it maybe once every 15 games. It's just not an amazing card. At the number 14 spot, I have the Magic Archer. The Magic Archer is a troop which will shoot an arrow through all your enemies very long range. So let's say it's at the bridge and there's, let's say, a troop in front of it. It will shoot that troop. The arrow will go through that troop and hit the tower. So that's the only thing that's actually decent about the Magic Archer. It deals decent amount of damage. It can be annoying in certain situations, but other than that, it's like a normal troop. At number 13 on this list, I have the Log. The Log is a spell which puts the log in the picture of it on the ground, rolling quite long distance. If you put it at the bridge, it will hit the princess tower. It does, the basic one, not upgraded, does about 90 damage to crown towers and about 300 damage to everything else. So it's not too bad. Everyone used to use it, and it's amazing against cards like Skarmy or a Goblin Gang. You could also, mainly at lower levels, use let's say you place a hog, you could do a prediction, maybe log right behind it. But it's this low on the list because of the barb arrow, which is like the same thing but it goes a shorter distance. And when it finishes going its distance, a barbarian comes out of it. So that's really why it's this low on the list. At number 12, I have the Nightwatch. Some of you may be surprised that the Nightwatch is this high up on the list, but here's why I think it is. So, the Nightwatch is like the normal witch, except it spawns bats instead of skeletons. I find that better for defense, maybe offense, around the same, but the bats are air troops and deal around the same damage when they're a similar level. I'm pretty sure, do attack faster. And the skeletons, they're on the ground. If any troop targets them, they're just dead. You could zap a witch. I'm not sure why you would do that. skeletons are dead. You could also do that for bats, but it's a higher value for if they do that on skeletons. The Nightwatch attacking also does a lot of damage. It could take out a ground troop easily with its bats, especially if the ground troop takes it out. Its bats will normally finish it off. At number 11, I have the Royal Ghost. The Royal Ghost goes invisible when you spawn it and after not attacking anything for a little while. So if it gets to the tower, it's gonna do a lot of damage. It has a lot of health. If it's for defense, if you just play it, it's gonna be invisible, so your opponent's troop can't attack it. When it hits something, it becomes visible again, and it's hard to take it out. So it's kind of annoying, but I don't find it's a great troop. At number 10, I have the Lava Hound. The Lava Hound is a flying troop that when dies spawns lava pups. The Lava Hound itself has very high health, but does very low damage. The lava pups have very low damage and very low health, but they spawn a ton of them and still spawning troops when it dies. It's good for maybe playing it in the back, blowing up a push with it, since it could be annoying for your opponent. If you pair it up with something maybe just as simple as a baby dragon, it could do a ton of damage to your opponent's tower. At number 9 on this list, I have the Ice Wizard. The Ice Wizard I find terrible on offense, but amazing on defense. On offense, you don't need to put much to stop it. You barely need to put anything. But if you level up onto your tower, it will do about no damage, but it will take a long time to take it out, since when it shoots its ice, it slows whatever the ice hits down. It's amazing on defense though. So on defense, let's say your opponent has a push, you put your Ice Wizard, you don't want them to attack that. It will hit your opponents because it does splash damage and slow them down, making it harder to take out your tower or troops. It does low damage, has not great health, but it still slows them down, and that's mainly the only point for the Ice Wizard. At number 8, I have the Infernal Dragon. The Infernal Dragon is a troop kind of like the Infernal Tower, just it's a troop. So it's flying, kind of related to the baby dragon. But this one, if let's say it's fighting Valkyrie, it shoots a beam that does damage. I'm pretty sure every second. It goes from it starts at around 30, then could go up to maybe 1,000 damage per second. So let's say it locks onto your tower, and you don't put anything to defend it. It has a lot of health. Your tower's gonna be dead. It increases the damage it does per second over time when locking onto something. Let's say you zap it or takes that thing out, it will reset back to its lowest. So it's amazing to counter against troops against Mega Knight or tanky troops. But if you let this thing lock onto your tower, say bye. Coming in at number 7 on this list is the Miner. The Miner will start at your king tower and dig in the ground to wherever you spawn it. You can spawn it across the whole map, including your opponent's hut. So let's say you wanted to go to the Princess Tower, maybe as a distraction to tank for a troop. You'll spawn it by the tower you're trying to get to, mainly on the outside of it, and it will attack. It does low damage, has decent health, but you could spawn anywhere on the field. It's very good defensively. It does pretty decent damage on defense, since it does reduce damage to Princess and King towers. But for defense, it's pretty good. It does a lot of damage. It hits pretty quickly. So it's kind of an all-rounder. You could use it for anything. It works in many decks and works on pretty much every push. The 6th best legendary in the game, in my opinion, is the Sparky. The Sparky is a troop. It moves very slowly, but does a ton of damage. If it hits your tower once, it does maybe almost 1,500 damage to that tower. To troops, it could destroy some. It can't attack flying troops, so bats will take it out pretty quickly. If you put a Skarmy down, it will maybe just take it out, or maybe just not, since it does area damage, but takes the longest out of any troop in the game to wind up. It takes 4 seconds, and second is the balloon, which takes 3 seconds. So anything with area damage or that spawns a lot of troops will almost take it out, but you could use it as a distraction so it doesn't hit your tower. On defense, no one really uses that. Against tanks, it could be good, but mainly for offense to try to walk onto your opponent's tower, because if it does, that's like half a tower. Well, not half a tower, but a ton. At number 5 on this list is the Mega Knight. The Mega Knight is only this high on the list because of using it at lower levels. It can be countered easily by an Infernal Dragon or P.E.K.K.A. It does area damage, hits pretty slowly, but it does quite a bit of damage. It has a ton of health. But when you get higher levels, it's actually pretty bad because everyone knows how to counter it. And not a lot of people use it. But let's say you're at lower levels, you just unlock it, it's going to destroy. That's it for defense. When you spawn it in, it does damage in like a radius, a circle radius that will show when you try spawn it in, kind of like the Elektra Wizard. But it doesn't hit the air troops. It only targets ground troops, and instead of charging, it jumps, dealing like double its normal damage. Coming in at number 4 is the Bandit. The Bandit is a low-cost troop, which instead of charging, instead of jumping, it dashes into things. So, let's say there's something on your tower, you could spawn the Bandit far away from it, so it dashes into the troop. Let's say you have a tower down, you spawn it in the middle of your opponent's side. It will barely have to move before dashing. It moves pretty fast. It attacks pretty fast. If you leave it, put nothing on it, it's going to deal a ton of damage to your opponent's tower. But this troop has a lot of defensive potential, a lot of offensive. Let's say it's against a prince. The prince is charged. You spawn the Bandit away from it. The Bandit will dash into it. Since it can be damaged when it dashes, the prince's charge won't hit it, so it can easily take out the prince. So same with maybe towers. So if you're gonna put it on your opponent's princess tower, you're gonna put it at the bridge because it's only using bridge spam really. On other decks, you only bridge spam with it, pretty much. If it's for offense, if it dashes into your tower, it can be damaged when it dashes, so that's a lot of many hits for it. Also against Inferno troops, when it dashes, the Inferno things can't see it. So that also refreshes the damage done to it to deal a lot more damage. And number 3 is the Ram Rider. The Ram Rider will charge up. It's dealing a lot of damage. Other than that, it hits slowly. It does little damage. It's kind of like the Hog Rider. But the person riding the ram will throw stars or something. I'm not sure. That hit your opponent's only troops. It does some damage, but it slows them down 2 seconds each time it hits them. But it fires pretty very fast actually. So it does damage to them, so it could attack flying troops too. And let's say your opponent's getting a push, maybe an LJ Loon, it will slow down both those troops, so your troops or towers can do much more damage to it for a period of time. So it's great on defense, it's great on offense. On offense, you just mainly want to get one charge. It usually won't get a second hit. That's still around 500 or more damage, so it's great. And number 2 is the Elektra Wizard. The E-Wiz, like the Mega Knight, hits a radius of enemies when he spawned in, except this hits the air and ground. So just like every wizard, it attacks air and ground. But this one stuns them for a short amount of time and does a lot of damage. So let's say, again, we'll say an LJ Loon, Lumberjack Balloon, push. This will be super annoying to them since it will hit both of them at the same time, since it could, the E-Wiz, when it attacks, it could hit multiple things at once without dealing area damage. Its lightning beam will hit will spread. It will stun them, and it will take them out with your towers. On offense, it could stun your opponent's towers for a second, making them shoot a lot slower, hit it a lot less, and it will deal maybe 300 damage a hit, so it could deal a ton of damage to anything. Finally, at number 1, I have the Lumberjack. The Lumberjack has a lot of health, does a lot of damage, and shoots and hits pretty much the quickest of any troop in Clash Royale, only behind a few. So this troop may not be the best itself out of all these cards, but it's the best in general. When it dies, it spawns a rage spell, because it's always carrying one. Pairing up with anything, this would do amazingly. It's pretty hard to take it out, other than maybe Scar Me. That's probably the only card other than Spouse I could take it out just in one. That's probably a positive elixir trade. But since it drops its rage, that's mainly where the LJ Loon comes from. With that's actually what I mainly use. I've gotten thousands of trophies from LJ Loon. It will, if you let it lock onto your tower at full health, it's gonna take out your tower completely. So it's just amazing with other troops together. It's amazing alone, but with other troops, this is just a beast. Probably the best card in Clash Royale in total. This is me ranking all 17 legendaries in Clash Royale from worst to best. Be sure to drop a like, drop a sub, and comment what you think should be different about this list. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.